Hi, and thank you for tuning in to Noir Histoire. I'm Natasha, and in this episode, I'll be sharing what I've learned about Charles Hamilton Houston, born on September 3rd, 1895, died on April 22nd, 1950, notable lawyer, nationality, American. Charles Hamilton Houston was born in Washington, D.C. to Mary and William Houston and was seemingly the couple's only child. His father was an attorney while his mother was a hairdresser who had several politicians as clients. Houston was an intelligent and inquisitive child with parents who doted on him. They provided him with enriching experiences and gave him access to books and a piano, sparking Houston's interest in both. At the time, few high schools allowed black students, and most only provided vocational educations. D.C.'s M Street High School distinguished itself as both the first black high school in America and one of the few to offer a classical education. Houston spent 3 years of his adolescence in attendance at M Street, during which time he was educated by some of America's most elite black teachers. His academic performance earned Houston a partial scholarship to Amherst College. While attending Amherst was a great academic opportunity, there were also some difficulties. Though middle class, the Houstons were of modest means, and paying the balance of Houston's tuition was a financial burden. Also, as the only black student in his class, Houston had few friends. Feeling alienated, Houston used the experience to further motivate himself to be independent and perform well academically. After graduating in 1915 as one of 6 valedictorians in his class, Houston returned to D.C. to teach English and literature at Howard University. 2 years later, when America entered World War I, Houston's father lobbied and got him an assignment at Fort Des Moines in Iowa. Fort Des Moines was the location of America's first black training camp for officers. The majority of black men who enlisted or were drafted into the military were sent to the Army, where they were often assigned menial and dangerous work. Houston hoped that he could avoid such assignments by becoming an officer while also creating a path to later advocate for improved conditions for black people in America. Unfortunately, Houston had a negative experience in the military due to racism. His first camp commander believed that black officers training under him lacked the intelligence and character required to lead. During training, Houston was assigned to 3 different camps where his complaints about racial discrimination were met with further abuse. Later, as a judge advocate, Houston witnessed firsthand multiple attempts to railroad black soldiers and officers. Houston's time overseas would offer further injustices. Despite risking their lives to serve America, Houston and other black soldiers still found themselves having to contend with Jim Crow in the military. Black officers were denied access to the same facilities and resources as white officers. Houston and a few other black officers narrowly escaped being lynched by a group of white servicemen who felt they were being uppity. And upon returning to America, a white man demanded that Houston and another black officer be forced to move from sitting near him in a train's dining car. Riots erupted across America during 1919's Red Summer. A client of Houston's father was convicted by an all-white jury after he shot and killed a white serviceman while attempting to escape from a mob during a riot in D.C. The experience motivated Houston to apply to Harvard Law School. Houston excelled at Harvard, earning A's and B's and the distinction of being the first black person given an editorial position on the Harvard Law Review's editorial board. He received a Frederick Sheldon Fellowship and furthered his law education at the University of Madrid. After completing his law degree, Houston returned to D.C. He spent the next 5 years working at his father's private law firm and teaching at the Howard University School of Law. The school was relatively new, but at the time trained the majority of America's black lawyers. He would later leave his father's practice to serve as a vice dean and later dean. During his tenure, Houston overturned the law school's structure and curriculum and helped guide the program through becoming accredited. The law school was part of Houston's vision for improving conditions for black people. He believed that the fight for equality and civil rights would require well-trained lawyers, as it would have to be waged in court. Thurgood Marshall was among the group of lawyers that Houston would train and mentor at Howard. Houston's work brought him to the attention of the NAACP, and he left Howard to serve as the organization's special counsel. Sometime later, Houston had Marshall join him at the NAACP. They traveled the Jim Crow South, gathering research about segregation, especially with regard to black education and school facilities. Working with Marshall and other attorneys, Houston helped to develop the strategies that the NAACP would use to fight segregation. The first courtroom battle that utilized these strategies took place in 1935. Houston would go on to serve as counsel in several notable cases, but he had sadly passed away by the time the campaign reached its zenith 20 years later with Brown v. Board of Ed. Charles Hamilton Houston died on April 22, 1950 in Washington, D.C. at the age of 54 from a heart attack. After his death, Houston was awarded the NAACP Spring Art Award, and the Howard University School of Law's main building was later named in his honor. Houston was married twice and had one son. Thanks for tuning in. Show notes and sources are available on the Noir Histoire website via the link in the episode description. I'm working on creating downloadables and infographics, so keep an eye on the website. These Black History Facts are released every Tuesday, so if you enjoyed this episode and want more, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my Black History Facts playlist.